Head over to miniaturemarket.com where there's thousands of board games at discounted prices, like Three Sisters. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. You're about to see my Allegro 1-minute overview and final thoughts. This is designed to see if this game warrants more of your time. If it does, just keep watching because then you'll see my full intro overview and final thoughts. However, if you don't want to be spoiled anything and you want to skip right to the full review, use the time index below in YouTube. Three Sisters is a roll and write where you're going to be taking care of your garden in different sections, as well as focusing on fruits and shed actions and perennials and goods to the farmer's market, all sorts of goodness. The game revolves around a rondel mechanism where you're drafting dice, taking garden actions in the zone by that die, and then taking the action from where you took it from. So interesting way to blend gardening and actions. And you might be focusing on certain zones in your garden, getting them up to the top to get points. Maybe you'll be focusing on goods, which will help you out at the farmer's market, making those actions more powerful. Maybe you're focusing on composting, allowing you to mitigate the dice. Maybe you'll be going up the apiary track and splitting that off depending on your strategy. Maybe you'll be going to the shed, maybe for big points, or maybe you're setting yourself up for different ongoing abilities with combos. Maybe you'll be focusing on fruits, which will get you either points, maybe watering everything, making it grow faster, maybe even goods, all different strategies layered within each other. Maybe you'll be planting pumpkins that surround certain perennial bushes, allowing you to take actions on those, which combo in together with all the other things in the game. In addition to all that, each round you're going to have an action of an event that will happen as well, but comboing everything together is the name of this game. Three Sisters has a really interesting theme of companion planting, which is actually a thing. I love that the beautiful double-sided garden sheets just look so nice. Rondel mechanisms I love and work so well here where you're trying to figure out the die number and the action. Which one are you putting together? Tons of combos. This game is combo-tastic. There's plenty of linked different strategies from one thing to another. Lots of exploration here, surrounding the perennials with pumpkins, taking those actions, composting to help mitigate the dice, shed actions to give you strategy focused. I am burnt out on roll and writes, but this is one I will not turn down a play of because it's that much fun. But it does have a decent amount of information overload on your first play or teach, but if you stick with it, awesome, combo-tastic, deep, crunchy, roll and write in about 45 minutes. If that's what you're looking for, this one's fantastic. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be out in the garden. We're going to be planting squash and beans. We're going to be watering. We're going to be going to the shed, maybe getting a tractor. We're going to be working on fruit, perennials, you name it. We're talking about Three Sisters. This is a rolling right game with a garden theme. Let me show you how this works. I'll see you on the other side. Three Sisters is a combo-tastic roll and write game where you're going to be doing all sorts of things and planting and watering your garden, building up perennials, going to the apiary, going to the shed and activating abilities and getting different points as well. You're going to be working on different types of fruits. You're going to be looking at different goods to take to the farmer's market. And of course, you're going to be composting. Lots of different things going on in this roll and write. Now the game is played over 8 rounds, and over those rounds you're going to be drafting dice and taking actions on this rondel. But before we get into the weeds of things, pun intended, let's go over like what you're really trying to do. You're going to be scoring at the end of those 8 rounds for many different things. One is the garden. This is your garden section here, and it's sectioned off into different numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to be planting things and then watering things, and you're going to be raising them up to the top of the boxes. And when you get to certain spots, like this is going to be worth 3 points, that's going to be worth a point. So if you fill them up, you're going to be getting points from your gardens up here. We'll talk about how you do that later. Perennials, if you were good at it, unlike me, and you get to the end of any of the perennials tracks, they'll be worth points there as well. Same for working your way up the apiary, splitting it off, and going up one of the 3 tracks or multiples of them, and getting points if you make it up far as well there. Fruit is going to give you different points depending on the fruit type that you get and how far you make it in those fruits. And then shed actions, there's certain things here like the new tractor, if you work on that long enough, and get 18 points. So all different ways to score points. So now let's talk about how you go about doing this. There's a certain amount of dice depending on the amount of players. This is a 2-player game. 1 player will have the start player marker. And you will draft one of these dice. Now, when you first we roll them and we set this up, pumpkins are 1s, so they go where this little token is. And then after you set up, you just move this to the furthest one past the last die. This just makes it so that each round, it kind of like circles the rondel a little bit. But I could take any one of these dice, and I will first take a garden action depending on the number. 1, 3, 5, or 6. So let's say I took the 5. I'll look at my 5 and I could do, basically you'll take a garden action always with whatever that number is. So again, number 5 is the die I'm taking, and I get 2 garden, I could take either plant or water. If I plant, I can plant any 2, and planting is marking the bottom box on any of these. However, the beans here, notice they're next to this. You can never plant here unless these are at least this tall, because the Three Sisters method is this one sort of helps this one grow. So this one has to be level 2 before this one can be planted. So that's one thing you could do, is you could just plant like that. But let's say I already had that and I took the garden action right now for 5, I can water. And water is adding 1 box atop of everything else that you have a box on. So now next time I plant, I can plant beans here. And again, you're just working your way up these tracks to get points. Now the other thing you could plant instead are pumpkins. You'll see around the edges of the garden are these pumpkins here. And these allow you to do different things. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit as well. Now this is the die I took. I did the 5. But now I get to take one of these actions, either the apiary or the fruit. So if I go up the apiary, I start here and I put a box there. Next time I just work my way up, and then once you get here, you can split up into go different things. So like the second time I take an apiary, I can take any fruit action. Or I could take a fruit action just because the action slot I took said apiary or fruit. Fruit, there's 4 different fruits: apples, peaches, blackberries, raspberries. So peaches, I would just mark the X here. My second time I'd water. That allows me to water my garden as shown you earlier. And since it's sort of a little bonus here, you get to water any zone you want. But some of these just get you points, like blackberries are gonna get you a bunch of points. Fruits are gonna get you points as you go here. Raspberries are gonna get you these red things. These are goods. And notice, earlier I talked about pumpkins. Those will often give you goods as well. Now goods you're gonna be checking off here, and goods are going to help you because one of the actions you can take sometimes is farmer's market. And depending on how many goods you have, you'll get a certain amount of actions, like a perennial action and a compost or whatever. So the more goods you have, the more powerful actions you'll be able to take at the farmer's market. Now let's talk a little bit about those perennials. Let's say that I had colored in this. I sort of planted this pumpkin here. I got a good. I went and crossed it off over there in the goods. And let's say I did this. I got another good. But anytime you have pumpkins that you finished, the one that you surrounded, you get to take an action in this. So hydrangea. So I'd actually be able to go to that and go here. Ooh, look at this. That now lets me go do an apple. So I'll come up to the apples and I'll go here. So there's lots of comboing in this game going back and forth. So let's talk, then it would be the next player's turn. They would go, and then once everyone's taken things, there'll be 2 dice left, and everyone gets to take whatever the lowest die that was not taken. Everyone simultaneously gets to use it. And we all use it for the garden actions. We get do the garden action in zone 1, and we can do apiary or fruit. Then we would set up a new round, we'd roll the new dice, we'd set them up, and we'd go there. There's actually an event that happens at the end of each round too. I'll talk about this in a moment. So let's talk about some of these other actions. 1 compost and 4 goods. Earlier we talked about how goods help you out at the farmer's market. Compost, you start with 1. You'll fill these in, and then you'll cross them off, and you can increase or decrease a die for 1. You can use as many as you want on a turn. Now we've talked about pretty much all of the actions. This one's another plant or water. So let's just say this was a 4. You would take a garden action in zone 4, then you'd also get the plant or water again in that zone. So the other one we haven't talked about is shed time. This area has the most going on. You could, every time you take a shed action, you can tick a box, up, left to right, top to bottom. If you spend a lot of time on the tractor, you can get 18 points. But some of the other ones, like these things do all sorts of different things. And they all combo with different parts of your board. And this is the part of the game that has probably the most going on with it. For example, you might do mulch, and you can take a perennial action instead of the rondel action. Or you have the pitchfork, and when you take this perennial action, you get an additional compost. Or you get 1 point for every 2 beans if you did a casserole dish. Or the shovel, you spend 3 compost to get yourself a good. Or a pie safe, you get a good for every apple or peach harvest once you finish this. So some of them are like ongoing abilities, some of them are points. There's a lot of really cool things in here that dive deep into strategy. And then at the end of the round, everyone is going to do an event action. So everyone will do the shed, right? Then we'll go to the next round. We will roll the 4 dice. We will place them all like this, like that. Okay, and then we do it again. At the end of this round, everyone's going to do a rain action. Rain is going to just basically water everything. So that's pretty much it. You're going to play for 8 rounds, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Three Sisters has an interesting theme, and I love either realistic and or historical themes. This one's realistic. I love it that this Three Sisters is a well-known method in that gardening industry of a companion planting method, where like the things that they care for one another. They're built next to each other and they actually help one another. I think that's really cool. Plus the rules also said there were like 2 people that read through the rule books that were like industry experts on that industry to make sure that they were handling the topic right. I thought that was pretty cool. This game has those beautiful double-sided garden sheets. They just look really nice. I love rondel mechanisms. This one is just really fun where you're like trying to select the die value and the action. And so you're looking at it and go, oh, here I could do this here, but then I got to take this action here. And I like how that sort of, it just really melts your brain in a good way, but it's a simple way, but it's still really good decisions there. This game is combo-tastic. It's lots and lots and lots of combos. It's really fun and to just, oh, I do this and I can do this and I can do this, and they all go on each other. Lots of different strategies to go after. Do I go for the goods to focus on the farmer's market? Do I go at the apiary and then go up the fruit side? Do I, all sorts of different things. There's just so much to do here. Lots of exploration in this game for sure. You're surrounding the perennials with the pumpkins and then to take those extra perennial actions. Really cool. Or you have the composting that helps mitigate the dice. Shed actions. It gives you focus. Are you going to just go for those big points of the tractor, or are you going to get the mulch that helps you do with this, or this that helps you do with the peaches and the apples, and all these different ways to focus down your strategy, and I think that's really cool. I am burnt out on roll and write games, but I'll never turn down to play this one. This is a really good one. Again, I'm very burnt out. I almost don't even play or try new ones anymore, but this one looked and sounded really cool, and I'd heard really good things. It's like, fine, I'll play a roll and write, and you're playing it and you're going, this game's really good. So if you like combo-tastic roll and writes that got a pretty decent meaty experience for how short it is, 30 to 45 minutes, this is going to be one to check out. On the negative side of things, it's not an easy one to teach. There's a lot going on here, and there's a little bit of information overload on the first play or teaching of this. But other than that, if you're looking for a good, crunchy, quick, relatively quick roll and write, this is a great one, Three Sisters. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge for their latest Game Topper 3.5 Kickstarter campaign.